Hi, this video is going to cover filling out an SOC form, which you would then give to your SBIT, also known as the school-based intervention team, when you are concerned about a student. So I'm going to share my screen, and what I've done is went to rvaschools.net. Once there, I clicked on offices and went to academic programs and supports. When you do that, a page like this will come up and you can actually click on this button under RTI to go into our internal page designed for our school teams. So if you scroll down, you will see that internal page come up and everything related to RTI and SBIT is right over here. So when you click on SBIT, you have every form that you are going to need as far as SOC and SIP or student intervention. So for this video, what you'll do is bring this up. And of course, you know that you want to make a copy. So I'm just going to call this student of concern. Your specific school may have a certain way that they want you to fill out this naming convention if you put it in a school drive, but others may not. So for our purposes, I'm going to use my baby's name. So we'll do Darius, student of concern form. All right. So once it's up, again, you just want to, oh my goodness, I can't even type here. Put in the name. School that you teach at, this is just the day that you as the teacher are filling it out, but your SBIT team will get back to you within a week and let you know what the date is for you to meet. So again, I'm making this up, but we'll pretend we're going to meet on the 23rd. He is not in third grade, but for our purposes, we're going to pretend. And so here for the teaching team, I want you to make sure that you include the general ed teacher. If the student is not already in tier 3, you're probably not going to be able to include an interventionist or anything like that. But if you're departmentalized, then you could put maybe your other teacher's name here, or if there's anyone else that the student is receiving anything from, maybe it's an IA, maybe it's a tutor, what have you, go ahead and put the entire teaching team there, as well as their title. And relationship to student is probably going to just be teacher, but in some instances, maybe you've got some SEL or behavior concerns. So there could be something like a check-in, check-out partner. So maybe this is a 5th grade, or I'm sorry, maybe this is a kindergarten teacher that the child was really close to. And so you've set up something for them. So it could be a relationship or even something like that that you've established, and you can bring them in to meet. So content area concerns, again, you can, put your date over here. Put your content area right here. I'm going to pretend for our purposes that my really, really big concern is reading. Okay. Behavior concerns, if there's anything to note here, you could, of course, do that as well. Now, when it says interventions implemented, a lot of people get confused here and they're like, I haven't implemented a formal intervention. This year, we have an all hands on deck model. So if you are teaching SIPs, collaborative classroom named SIPs is a tier 1, 2, and 3 teaching program. So I'm going to include SIPs here, that is something that I've been doing. And notice I'm not filling in the date. Obviously, you're going to fill in those components once you're turning this in. But for our purposes, I'll pretend that he's gotten SIPs from me in my classroom because I'm a 3rd grade teacher, but he's just not making progress at the rate at which I would expect for a typical 3rd grader, like the other kiddos in his group maybe. So maybe those kids are passing the mastery tests, but Darius isn't, okay? Behavior, again, maybe I've done check-in, check-out, and then maybe I've done teacher talks where we're talking about our feelings and I'm seeing how he is, or maybe I'm a zone school, like zones of regulation. And so maybe I've worked with my counselor and like implemented some of those feeling words to get him to identify those actions. So whatever you have done put those there. Student strengths, leader. You can list several, right? We want to build plans based on interests and based on things that the kiddo is good at. This is just a quick, simple overview. I'm not going to go as in depth as maybe you would. Extracurricular, other interests, go ahead and put that there. Attendance, that's huge this year, especially in an age of COVID, right? So absences as well as tardies, include that. So we're going to pretend 2 days absent, but maybe 15 days tardy, because that may really be impacting this SEL stuff if we're getting that during breakfast or during our community circles or what have you. And then anything else that we've left off this form that you feel is going to be really influential within the conversation that you're having with your SBIT, tag it in right there. Okay. So this next section, it says subject and then grades. So if you are filling this out, let's pretend it's Q1. What you could do is put in reading, grades you sent home on a report card. Math, grades you sent home on a report card. Okay, and what have you. You can put the date. So again, this is going to go in their file, and then any comments that you have. So if you don't feel that the grade is reflective, this is a place to note that. Discipline summary, pretty simple. This could be anything from little Darius visited the office on blah, 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 blah day, and this is what happened. All right. This goes a little bit deeper, and you may be wondering, well, how's this any different than grades up above? Assessment data summary is really looking at the bigger picture. So here we would be talking about screeners. So we used to have MAP, we don't have MAP, but things like PALS scores or things like iReady scores. You could also include formative assessments. So any of your CBMs, you could do your L microphases. Forgot we're in reading here and I'm supposed to be doing an elementary student. So just really anything that is going to speak to this identified area of concern is what you're going to put right there. And then of course you can put the results on this side. Community or other services provided. You may not know this, right? Maybe the parents told you that they're getting outside counseling. Maybe they're getting a tier 3 intervention for behavior inside. Maybe it's communities in schools. Maybe it's working with a behavior specialist. You probably already have a BIT plan in place if that were the case. But anywho, just anything that you know about, summarize and put it there. All right. Same thing, home-based service. So the only difference between community service versus home-based service, this could even be like, my kid went to YMCA, is someone that's pushing in to the child's home. And again, this may be something that you leave blank. You could write NA, or you could put, am not aware of services received at home if you haven't had that conversation with the parent and you're unaware of what that may be. Okay, that's all you have to do. All right, so the bulk of an SOC form is really just you collecting data. And to be honest, all the data that you're collecting is things that you are already doing and that you're already implementing. And then what's going to happen is you're going to turn this into your school-based intervention team, probably your SBIT chair. I know each school does it differently. Usually SBIT chair is your AP, and then they'll schedule a meeting that you're going to be invited to, right? So this paper isn't going to be the only thing that's representing your concern and your heart and your worries for this child. Your voice will be able to be there to kind of go further. But then what you'll do as a team is once you sit down and meet, there should be a monthly meeting happening with your SBIT chair, and they're called ID meetings or identification meetings. And during that meeting, you'll go through all the SOC forms for the school. Some people have one because they have a smaller population. Some people have to grade band them, and so there's several. It looks different at each school, but during your identification meeting, your SBIT team will talk about student of concern forms, and they'll have two things. They will either keep them in a tier 2, and they will help you to come up with a plan for the classroom, or they will identify them as needing an intensive intervention or a tier 3 intervention. And then that is when you would move from a student of concern form to a student intervention plan. And again, that's where it gets a little bit more intensive. And so I'll talk about that in another video. So check that one out, but you'll just write that here. And again, this stands for SIP, make a student intervention plan. Justification of the decision. If you're tier 3, you are 2 or more grade levels behind. Obviously, you could write out a lengthier justification, but to make it into tier 3, it's technically a student that's 2 or more grade levels below. Scheduled progress monitoring. This is a biggie. Our district mandates that you're looking for big changes every 8 to 12 weeks, but we also know that we have scheduled progress monitoring meetings monthly. So your SBIT team will have progress monitoring where yourself and an interventionist would come together just to be able to talk about what's happening on the SIP form. Do we need to make adjustments? Are they making progress within or mastering these foundational, right? Because this isn't grade level skills that they're going to be working on. If they're tier 3, it's foundational skills so that they can then access grade level skills. But scheduled progress monitoring, you can put in the type. It's very different per program. But yeah, your SBIT will be able to guide you with this. Documentation, next SBIT meeting that you're going to meet and talk about this kiddo could go right here. And then of course the name and signature of your SBIT chair. All right, hope that helps. Thanks for tuning in. Bye guys.